One occasion I took a suitcase full of sticks. It was so jam-packed with Thai sticks that you couldn't get a bloody T-shirt on top of it and close the case.
Oh, no.
So it was just wrapped in plastic, wiped down with metho so the smell wouldn't get out.
Yeah.
There were 2 bags left on the carousel.
Yeah.
One of them was mine. And standing around the carousel were, I think, 20, possibly more, but 20 Commonwealth Police in uniform.
Yeah. I'm Andrew Rule. This is Life and Crimes, and today we're going to talk to Rod Halsted, a fellow that I would call almost a friend. We met around 20 years ago, or a little bit less, when we were introduced by a mutual friend, Billy Gray.
Yep.
And Billy Gray, of course, was from Albury originally, up that way, but he started work in newspapers at the Border Mail, the Albury Border Mail, and in fact, so did you, briefly. That was a brief stopover in a long and colourful career, Rod Halsted.
It was,
and you realised that even back in the early 2000s and thought you might sit down and write your memoirs, and we discussed this possibility.
Yeah.
And finally, you've delivered. It's been published.
Hallelujah.
It has been published by a major publisher. It would be Allen & Unwin.
Correct.
And it is called...
It's called Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. It's a very accurate title.
It's a very accurate title. Now, Rod, who are you and why are you here? You're flogging your book, but...
Yeah, I am flogging the book, but...
You got some funny stories to tell us.
I got a lot of funny stories. It's been an up and down life, without bringing a tear to the eye. I've hurt a few people along the way, not least my 2 kids.
Yeah.
And my ex-wife.
Yes.
And various others. I've done the best I could to make amends.
Yeah.
I decided to get sober, or I was impelled to get sober 26 years ago. In fact, 26 years ago, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It was suggested to me not long after I went into AA by Barry Humphries, and he doesn't mind, didn't mind his name being you.
He won't now, he'd be fine now.
No, he's a good bloke too.
Yeah.
And he came up to me after a meeting one day and he said, "Tell me, Rod," he said, "have you ever thought about writing your memoir? You're interested in stories to tell."
Yeah.
And I said, "I have, Barry, but look, when I write it, I want to get it exactly right." He said, "I'll give you a word of advice there." He said, "Don't get it right, get it written." And that stuck in my mind. It really stuck in my mind. And then I got sober and I started building businesses and making a few bob and concentrating on that. And the book was in the back of my mind. And eventually, I suppose about 4 years ago, I sold one business that I kicked off, and I thought, well, I got a loose end. I'll write the book.
You finally got around to writing the book that we discussed all those years ago.
Yeah. I met you with Billy. I reckon it would be about. It was when I was working for WTFN in Melbourne.
Yeah.
And Bill flew down for it.
Yeah.
And I reckon that would have been around about 15 years ago.
Without doubt. Before I came back to the welcoming arms of the Herald Sun.
Yeah.
So finally you've written this book, and I have to say, to explain to our listeners, that it's not really about, the joys of AA. It's about the life you led before that. So what happened in your life when you were young and silly?
Oh, look, starting at the beginning, the old man was a stock and station agent in Gunnedah. And I was an adventurous sort of a kid. We didn't have TV and, all the implemented telephones and all the rest that they've got these days. You made your own fun.
Of course.
So, Mum would send us up to Porcupine Hill with a box of matches and a packet of sausages and say, be home by dark.
Yeah.
You sort of learnt to survive, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean survive. She'd send us off. You know what I mean? It was an adventurous life. Anyway, the old man said to me, I wanted to go to the sale yards and work with him in school holidays.
He was a stock and station agent.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was. And a bloody good salesman. Anyway, I went to the sale yards and I got into the sheep trucks and opened gates and the sheep are doing what they do, and all over me, and I'm bloody loving it. And I got paid. I got paid £1 a day, which is bloody good money for a kid. Yeah. Anyway, one day when I was about 10, he said to me, "Son," he said, "it's time for you to work with cattle. Do you want to do that?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, no problem." So he said, "I'm going to hunt a steer around the race here to you. I want you to hold on to this gate to the pen, and when the steer comes up, you go, hoorah, hoorah, and it'll go into the pen." And I said, "Yeah, right, no worries." And then this bloody thing came around the corner and fair dinkum. I thought it was a Spanish fighting bull. It was huge. Yeah. I thought it was anyway. Yeah. Anyway, it's trotted towards me, and I thought it was galloping at me. And I've got a hoorah, hoorah. And I got one foot on the bloody race of the so I could shinny out of the way. and holding the gate. And anyway, the thing turned and went into the pen, and I closed the gate and slid the bolt across, and I looked at the old man, and he had this look on his face of absolute pride, you know, and confidence, and I saw it. It was an exchange, you know, that look that passes between people. And I realised years later, I only was able to put it into words when I got into AA, you know, what's that, 40 years later. Yeah. I realised in that moment that I had courage. Yeah. I could stand my ground. Yeah. 2, I could work in a team with the old man. Yeah. 3, that I could follow directions. Yeah. And 4, it's a really good idea to have plan B, hence the foot on the fence, so I could get out of the bloody way of the
Very nice. So your life has been
so that's what started
predicated on that.
Yeah, and that's that. I have an adventurous spirit. And
what happened next?
Well, we moved to Albury, and I went to high school, and I had no interest whatever in school. I had a lot of interest in my mates and playing footy and living that sort of life. You know, 15, 16 years of age, going down to the pub. Old Rekka, who played for Melbourne, you know, years and years ago. Yep. Rekka had a pub in Albury, and we used to go in there. Actually, it was before he owned it. We used to go in there and buy, or I did because I looked the oldest. I'd go in there and you could buy 5 cans of VB for $1. 20 cents each. Yeah. And I used to buy them for the boys, and we used to go over the gardens and have a drink. And it was a really good life. It was a terrific life. We didn't hurt anybody. We didn't vandalise. We just lived our lives. But I had no interest in school. I got good passes in maths and English, and I couldn't wait to get out. And the old man got me a job in the bloody bank.
Did he?
Yeah, 4 walls.
Which bank was
National? Yeah.
And you're not your cup of tea?
No. It had 4 walls. I wanted to be outside.
How long did it last?
The bank lasted 2 weeks in Albury, and I resigned. Right. And the manager said, "You can't do that. Your father got you the job." So they sent me to Sydney, and I had 6 months up there. And
in the bank in Sydney?
Yeah.
Right in Sydney.
Well, you know, it was in Albury.
Was this a turning point?
Yeah, well, Albury actually was a turning point. My job for 2 weeks was to carry this suitcase full of used banknotes with a guard who carried a gun. And we'd take it up the road 50 metres or 50 yards then to the Commonwealth Bank. Yep. And we'd take it down into their cellar, and they would then take the money and they'd count it and stamp holes in it and send it off to the Reserve Bank. Right. It was just old notes that were no good anymore. Yep. So I spent the 2 weeks the 2 times I carried that, I'm thinking, how can I make this mine? How can I pinch it?
I see. So you had an inquiring mind with a slightly criminal bent. Yeah. I suppose, which is only natural when you're carrying used banknotes.
Well, yeah, it's pretty tempting. There's
very tempting.
Probably, you know, £30,000 or something like $30,000 in it. Yeah. Dollars it was, Dollars. Yeah, 1966.
Yes, the conversion. So, of course, you didn't do that.
No, I didn't. But it was interesting. The thought occurred to me because I'm not a thief.
No, but
I reckon
large amounts of money.
Certain institutions are fair game, like banks, the tax office. Yeah. Hope tax bloke isn't listening now.
No, well, he probably is.
Yeah, probably is. I take that back.
Don't take that back. I would immediately. We all pay tax around here.
Yes, so do I.
So you went to Sydney to work in the bank, and what happened there?
Well, I just drank. I got onto the booze.
Did you?
Yeah, I had one day in the time I was there, I had one day at the races, and I won $40, which was double my weekly salary.
Double your weekly.
Yeah, and my mate and I decided we're going to the Cross for a drink. Yes. And we had to walk past the Kirribilli Hotel. Right. And so we called in for a quick one, and there were about 7 or 8 blokes in there. Yeah. And I, being the lair I am, I said, "Shout the bar."
Yeah. You'd always wanted to say it. Yeah. And you were, 17 or something?
Yeah. And when, you know, a middy of beer was 20 cents. Yeah. You know, it's cheap. Yeah. So I thought, well, I won $40, and the publican or the barman came back and he said, "That'll be $7.80. And I said,
not $1.20. Yeah.
How could it possibly be 7? There's only 7 blokes in here. They're all drinking 7-ounce beers and they're nursing those. Oh, he said, they're not drinking those anymore. He said, they're all drinking schooners now with a Scotch chaser.
That was lesson 1.
Yeah, that was lesson 1.
Don't big note.
Yeah, don't big note. I didn't learn it. No. Take my advice.
Take my advice. I'm not using it. So you get to the races and
I loved to punt. I ran the gambling at school. I ran the Melbourne Cup book at school.
Did you?
Yeah, made good money out of it and what have you. But it wasn't for me, the bank life, and I decided to hitchhike over to Western Australia.
Did you? And what was the aim of that?
Well, my mate's father knew somebody over at Great Boulder Gold Mines out of Kalgoorlie, and he organised a job for Phil, and Phil told me that he could get me a job too. I said, yep, I'm in. And so I hitchchiked over to Kalgoorlie.
In the mines?
Well, not in the mines, as a geologist assistant.
Oh, okay.
So,
Travelling
out in the country that nobody had ever been to before.
Yeah, good stuff.
I remember Dennis, the geologist, he was an odd one. He was one of twins. They used to take it in turns to stand for the local seat in the state parliament. They never ever got any votes, but,
Is that right?
Yeah, he was a boring sort of a bloke, but, nice enough.
So you got the job. You got there. You got there safely.
Got there safely.
A few adventures, but
16 rides. 3.5 days.
Did you roll a car or something?
Oh, I've rolled a number of cars, but not on that trip. No.
And how long did you spend working in the bush? And
I was only over there for about 6 months. Yeah. And there were lots of things happened. Lots of there were a lot of funny moments. There was a very nasty moment where a bloke by the name of Steve was driving the ute, and Scotty and I were the passengers in it, and he was bush bashing, and I said to him, better slow down, it's flat country in Western Australia, but there are rocks everywhere. I said, you can't see where you're going. And he said, no, it'll be right. And the next thing, 3 goats emerged, and he drove at them, and Scotty and I were sort of, thinking, well, that's a kind of weird thing and he accelerated and ran over one of them. And Scotty went off his trolley. He said, pull the car up, got out, and he put the gate out of its misery. And then he was going to use the knife on this fella, Steve. I had to grab him and hold him. And I mean, I was big and he was small, but he was going to have this fella. And we went back to camp, and we got in the ute and said, we'll go straight back to camp.
Strained the relationship?
Yeah, we told the boss that we'd never work with this bloke again. Didn't tell him why. Just said we will never work with this fella again. He turned out to be a thief, Steve, and got his just desserts. Another mild-mannered Michael with the glasses came from a family of doctors, sat the HSC 3 times so he could get the marks to become a doctor, and his family insisted he'd be a doctor, and he just said, no, I've had enough. And he got over to Western Australia and worked in the camps with us, and we didn't know it, but Michael was the heavyweight boxing champion of his own, and he just took this bloke apart. Oh, and right. I know I sound like I'm promoting violence, and I'm not, but there are certain moments in time when nothing but a good clip on the ear will do the job.
And that's what happened?
Yeah, we got a clip in the ear.
Steve got a touch up. What was your next adventure after working in 6 months in the bush? with a murderous, goat-killing lunatic.
I thought I'd got onto a tip for shares, and I rang my old man and said, buy these shares, Theseus. They're going to list in the next few days. Yeah. And they did. They listed in Queensland, a West Australian company. They were 20-cent shares listed at 30 cents, and they rapidly went to $40 or something. Oh. And then I was told by the geologist that I was with when we discovered this stuff, and he said, look, it's a dud. So I rang the old man and said, sell. And then I resigned, and I thought, I'm going back to Albury. I'm going back to Ormotza. Yeah. And when I got back, the old man said, no. He said, we made nothing. His stockbroker mate in Sydney he went to school with didn't buy them because he hadn't seen the prospectus. Oh. And that taught me a big lesson. Take your chances. Yeah. Take your chances. If you're going to wait for proof, you'll never ever back a winner.
No, true. Yeah, good point. That is an interesting story because, I mean, the arithmetic, 20 cents each, turning into $40, it's a massive several thousand%.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
he only had to put $1,000 in, and you never ever work again.
Never work again. Yeah. Staggering. Yeah. But didn't happen.
Well, I didn't work again for 10 years anyway.
No.
I sold
Well, that's sort of why in a way, that's why we're here, the descent of young Rod into the pit of Sin City. So you end up back in Sydney.
I ended up back in Sydney, and I did come back and work for the Board of Mail for a year, but that didn't work out.
Now, I seem to recall reading the book, I read an early version of it, that in Sydney at one point you'd worked in a pub there and you didn't realise you got involved in a card game and you didn't realise it was rigged and you lost.
It wasn't a pub, it was Bloody Mary's Wine Bar.
Bloody Mary's Wine Bar. When was that?
That was early days. We had a game of cards in my house that I was sharing with a couple of other blokes, and one of the bouncers from Bloody Mary's, a guy called Mike, had the fastest hands you've ever seen in your life. Yeah. I remember him one night he placed a candle on the bar, lit it, and he had one of those bowl wine glasses on a stem with a bowl, and he looked at both, and in the fastest thing, he flicked his fingers at the flame of the candle. He didn't actually touch it, but he sucked the air out from underneath the candle and put it out. And in the same motion, cracked the edge of the bowl of the wine glass and broke the stem and caught the bowl.
Did he?
I mean, that's incredibly fast.
Yeah.
He was a roly-poly little bloke, but he was a karate guy and he really knew his stuff. And he was the guy...
He could shuffle cards?
He could shuffle cards.
Could he?
And,
as well as do karate?
As well as...
Handy lad.
Yeah.
And what was his name? Was he still...
Mike.
Mike.
I imagine he'd be dead by now, but who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows? There are no
Was he much older than you?
Probably about 10 years older.
He may be just hanging on. So Mike got you into a game of cards.
Mike and myself.
And he managed to beat you.
Oh, did he? Well, and a number of other blokes in the game.
Yeah.
And Gus, who loved to play cards, said no. He said, he played one or two hands, and he said, no, I'll sit out, thanks.
Oh.
And Gus could see Mike dealing from the bottom of the deck, and I couldn't.
Okay.
And he got me for 500.
Oh,
yeah,
it was quite a few, Bob.
Yeah.
And what happened then? Yeah,
well,
you couldn't really.
I couldn't pay him because I didn't have the 500. I wasn't dealing.
And he put up a proposition.
Yeah, he put a proposition up.
And what was that? That
we relieve the wine bar of its night's takings.
Oh, so he robbed the joint.
Yeah.
And how did that work out?
Well, nobody got charged.
No.
Well, we did it, and the police arrived. The way we did it, he said, look, I'll mark you, I'll whack you. You know, you open the back door, it's dark, I step in, whack you. The safe's open, you're about to put money in them.
Yeah.
Boom, boom. And I said, yeah, righto. So he put these 3 coins, 2 bob bits in between his fingers, and he's whacked me and it sort of marked me a bit.
Yeah.
I said, no, get serious. So he's gone whack, and I said, so he's gone 3 or 4 really good hard, and he's opened my eye up, and I've got blood raining down. And I then lay on the floor for a couple of minutes, and I got up and I'm groggy, and I called the police, and they arrived, and I realised I could be charged still out of this matter. Yeah. I could have left it out of the book, and I could choose not to talk about it now. Yeah. But you can't.
It's a long time ago.
You can't. Well, yeah, but you can't edit your life. No. If you're going to be fair dinkum and want people to believe you, if you're going to put yourself up as the poster boy for anti-drugs, then how can you deny your own bad behaviour?
Well, that's very true. This is a good point. And at this point, you're only really putting yourself in rather than naming.
Oh, Mike didn't, and I didn't put anybody in. But the police used to drink in our bar. Yes. And 2 of them arrived, one who hated me and one who liked me. Right. Vaughan liked me, and the other bloke, I can't remember his name, he didn't like me at all. And so the bloke who didn't like me is questioning me, and what's your part in this, and what did you do? You set this up, didn't you? No, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm groggy. I've got no memory, blah, blah, blah. And Vaughan said, yeah, well, pretty open and shut case to me. Right, you're right to get home, Rod? And I said, well, I'm a bit groggy. He said, I will give you a ride. Yeah. And the other bloke said, you're kidding, aren't you? He said, no, I'm not. And Vaughan was a senior, so, I got a ride.
And what was the net take of the...
It was, I think it was about 1,500.
But he wanted his 500 that you'd lost.
Which would have left us 750 each. Yeah. And me paying him the 500 would have left me with 250. Yeah. But he very graciously said, no, we'll split it down the middle.
Oh, I see. And what happened then? What happened with Mike?
It was all pretty innocuous. It was just running a wine bar and doing stuff. You know, I moved on to other things. That's when I got into the other stuff, the dealing game. Yeah.
So that was sort of the first real criminal act.
Yeah, it was
that
too. Now you mention it.
Bloody Mary's wine bar in what suburb?
Camperdown. Yeah, just down from RPA Hospital.
And so you'd been pretty good at working you were a bit of a barman, sort of.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've done a lot of bar work.
Talk to people.
Yeah, and I've done a lot of bar work, and I pull a bloody good beer, and I don't spill anything into the drip tray. Beautiful. At the end of my session, you wouldn't be able to fill a thimble with the stuff.
Very good.
Hi, it's Gary Jubilant here. Do you want a real and raw look inside the world of crime? Well, then check out my podcast, I Catch Killers, where I interview people from all sides of the law.
I draw my firearm and I went into fight mode. I wanted to find and confront this gunman.
I'm not getting verbal, am I?
I shouldn't have trusted you. See, I'm trying to open my mind up to defence powers.
I know, it's just begging to be said.
Yeah, fair call. We have amazing guests every week. Search for I Catch Killers wherever you get your podcasts.
And what happened next?
I ran into an old mate that I'd played footy against in Albury, Paul Mack, now dead, God bless him. And Paul said, listen, can you do something for me? I've got a business. I want you to run it for me. I want to take a trip to Mexico. I want to have a holiday.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, sure. What's the business? And he said, well, I sell marijuana. And I said, yeah, I can do that. I didn't think twice. I said, yeah, I can do that. I've been smoking dope for about a year. And so he went and he gave me a couple of numbers, a contact in Melbourne and the head man in Sydney, who I, in the book, call Gator, non-deplumed, but I'm not going to tell you his real name because...
No. Might be sort of a marine type animal.
Yeah, it could be, something like that.
Although there are no gators in Australia, but I get... No. There is an alligator river.
Yeah.
So your man had gone to Mexico?
Yep, he went to Mexico.
To buy things?
No, he just went for a holiday.
Oh, right.
And I said, I'll run it and I'll make something and I'll keep some for you. And I met this guy, and my mate Paul told him that I was going to call him. I met him on the corner of New South Ed Road outside Rose Bay Police Station, which is an interesting starting point.
It is.
And we nodded at each other. I hopped into his car. We went to the pub what's the pub in Double Bay? Golden Sheath.
Yeah.
The Golden Sheath. We went to Golden Sheath.
Be called the Golden Sheet. It could be called all sorts of things.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
And I've had some funny times in there.
I bet.
Yeah. And we remember the guy Robert G. Barrett rode.
I do. The Bondi Butcher.
The Bondi Butcher.
I had some interesting times with Robert G. Barrett.
Did you?
Once or twice.
Yeah.
He was a very funny man.
He was a very funny man and
took
a bloody good drinker.
He took the mickey out of the literary establishment.
Yes.
He came down to a writers' festival in Melbourne, which is very seriously po-faced and all that. And he turned up with, I think, possibly two very sort of glamorous women who didn't have a lot of clothing on, and he took them both to this writers' festival
that's
and absolutely shocked them. It was very funny.
I was in the back bar with the Gator and a few other blokes one day, and in through the double doors burst Robert G. Barrett with probably different ones, but two girls and one under each arm. Yeah. And he bellowed out, "Righto, boys, the party can start. I'm here." He was like that. He was
funny man.
And he was a bouncer on the illegal casino doors.
Oh, was he?
Yeah. That's.
He'd been a butcher.
He could blue.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah,
big time. Yeah. But he didn't look for it or anything. He was just very happy.
Happy bloke.
He knew what was right.
They were funny books.
Yeah.
They were funny.
Yeah.
They weren't bad, really.
Yeah.
And they have been filmed since. I know that. Yeah. Big
so
redhead.
They should be.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got on the terps there, Gator and I, and we sort of became mates. And then I started running large amounts of smoko, tie sticks, and
just for the benefit of our listeners, and I don't want to cause any trouble here, and also we can edit this. But Gator is a nom de plume for a bloke who has got a nickname, and he is a very significant figure in Sydney crime.
Yes.
Or, in fact, in Australian crime.
Yes.
And he's one that people like me and others have heard of for decades.
Yeah.
That's true, isn't it?
That's true.
That's right. Okay, I just wanted to make that clear to our listeners that we're not talking about Mickey Mouse stuff here.
No. We're talking about a very serious man.
Very serious
And I've got to say, I liked him a real lot back then, and I still like him. I haven't seen him for a long time, but I remember...
Does he like you? That's the problem.
Well, he did last time I saw him.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. Last time I saw him, he was getting involved in other stuff and outside of smoko. And I said to him, "This isn't for me, mate. I'm out."
Right.
And it's a trade you don't walk away from.
Yeah.
But I looked him in the eye and I said, "I'm out. I'm finished. Are we right?"
Yeah.
And he looked at me for a long time, and then he smiled and he said, "Yeah, mate, we're right."
Yeah.
And I believed him. Yeah. And I've never had a moment's worry since.
No.
And
so you had to sort of make the formal exit.
Yeah,
the exit interview.
Well, I wasn't just going to not turn up.
No,
and I wasn't going to promise to do something that I didn't do. I mean, I always fulfilled the task.
Which was
being the middleman between the buyer and the seller.
And so, just describe to listeners what that would involve on a given Wednesday or whatever it might be.
Well. And that term, that's just reminded me. My old man said to me when I went to West Australia, he said, "I've got two things for you. One was $30, it was a lot of money."
Yeah.
And I said, "What's the other thing?" He said, "A word of advice." He said, "The world's full of buyers and sellers. Become the agent in the middle."
Yeah.
He said, "Often you'll get paid both ways."
Yeah.
And I did, and I became a very, very good salesman.
Right.
And
so would you travel to places like Griffith to buy?
No. I didn't travel anywhere to buy stuff. I picked it up in Sydney. It was all organised. It was mostly imported from Thailand and Afghanistan and elsewhere.
So it's Buddha sticks and hash.
Hash oil.
Yep.
And I would then take, a couple of times I picked it up at the airport, at the customs, I should say.
Yeah.
And they were two loads of, one was Thai sticks, the other was hash oil, and we required my utility to transport both loads.
Why were you a good choice for this? Did they already have people at the customs who were on side that were being bribed, or were you able to just sort of disarm them with your country boy charm?
They didn't, certainly with the stuff with the hash oil in it.
Yeah.
That was a large box, and when I went to pick it up, they said, "Who are you?" I said, "I was just in a bloody pub. A bloke's paid me bloody $50 to come and pick this up. Can I get it done? I'm in a hurry."
Yeah.
And they said, "You just wait your turn." And they've emptied the box of all sorts of goodies, and some wooden things which they took a drill and drilled into to see if there's anything in it.
Yeah.
Other stuff, if it could be opened, they opened it, and they completely emptied the box.
Yeah.
And they said, "All right, well, you can go now." I said, "Well, I'm going to put it in the box. I'm only paid to bloody transport it."
Yeah.
So I said, "You can put it in the back in the box," which they did.
Yeah.
And I said, "Can you give me a hand to load it?" And they did. They gave me a hand to put it in.
So where was the actual oil?
It was in the framework of the box.
In the framework of the box. That's that old Wolf joke about they're stopping the bloke with a wheelbarrow full of straw every day.
That's right.
And at the end of 6 weeks, they said, he said, "I've stealing wheelbarrows from Dock 1 and straw from Dock 3.
That's right.
Yeah. It was in the framework of the box. They didn't drill that.
No.
Amazing.
No.
Now, your man Gator.
Yep.
He had parents.
Yep.
You met the parents.
Yep.
Now, just to make it clear again, Gator is a serious heavy, known to many, many people around this country.
Yep.
He has been nominated in books, films, whatever, as a heavy dude. You are reasonably close to him at some point. This is before Adelaide, I suppose. This is before the Adelaide, adventure, where you left town to get away.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you have met Gator's parents up the coast somewhere.
Yeah.
You may tell this with unexpurgated language, and we may have to do some beeping. But
right, I'll have to tell it with unexpurgated language. This is the time we brought the oil in the framework of the box.
Yeah.
We jumped into Gator's Jag.
Yeah.
There was Gator's minder, his mate, and there was me. And we went up the Central Coast. We pulled up at this house. Mum and Dad were waiting for us out the front.
Humble house, or?
Yep, very humble home, fibro home.
What were Mum and Dad like?
Mum and Dad it's 4:30 in the afternoon. Mum's in hair curlers. She was a lovely lady. She's in hair curlers, a night sort of gown over at the top of it. And Dad was in his striped pajamas and his dressing gown with a gold tassel cord.
Did he?
At 4:30 in the arvo.
Is that right? Had a little sleep.
Yeah, and ready for sleep, I think. And then we went into the house. We put the framework into the freezer. I still had no idea what we were carrying. We put the framework into the freezer, and then we sat down for dinner at 5 o'clock. And Mum had cooked chops and 3 veg.
Right.
And it was bloody nice too.
Yeah.
She came out and served us, and then she went back into the kitchen and ate on her own.
Yeah.
Left the men to talk.
Right.
And I don't know, am I allowed to bang this table?
Well, it'll come through on the recording. Yeah, go on.
So the old man's there, and he's eating his chops and what have you, and he's telling us about this time he's doing some business with the boys from Griffith, and he'd obviously been
involved as well.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, that's where Gator learned his trade.
Yeah.
Anyway, the old man's telling the story about, we did this with Griffith, and we went up there, and at the same time he's picked up a piece of bread and he's buttered it.
Yeah.
White bread. And he's buttered it, and then he's looked puzzled, and he's looked around the table, and then he's gone, bang, slapped his hand on the table really loudly.
Yeah.
Where's the fucking Vegemite? Mum came out with a jar of spread, put a hand on his shoulder and said, now, dear, don't you get upset. You'll give yourself a heart attack. He said, well, for fuck's sake, a man wants he looks for the Vegemite. There's no fucking Vegemite. What the fuck's going on? I levitated out of the chair. Gator's minder, who was sitting next to the old man.
Yeah.
he's just looked across at me and he's muttered out the side of his mouth, "You'll get used to it." And I thought, geez, I hope I do. I hope I do.
It's very funny. It was Gator.
Oh, he was sort of, just that was the way it was.
Yeah, no problem.
No, he was. I actually liked them. I thought they were a lovely family.
Yeah.
It sounds a bit weird, but
but
everything in its own place. And
that'd be a very good scene in a certain sort of film.
Oh, wouldn't be a ripper. Yeah.
Hey?
I'll tell you something
bit Chopper-esque and a bit like Two Hands, that with Brian Brown.
I'll tell you something else about Gator is that we're driving along with just himself and me one day, and he burst into song.
Did he?
And I was stunned.
Could sing.
Oh, he had a voice like a male Nina Simone.
Did he?
Oh, he could sing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
I mean, I'm no expert at the caper, but I know what's good and what's not.
Yeah.
And he was good. I mean, top class.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So
I'd love to see him Australian Idol. That'd be fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah. He didn't look like an angel, but he could sing like one.
Yeah.
Is that a fact?
Yeah.
Well, it's a great story about Gator. Now, at this stage, you're, early 20s, if that.
Early to mid, yes, 24,
and you're from
25.
Albury, your father's a stock and station agent, you've got red hair and sort of freckles. You would sort of front up in that time as a sort of a country boy sort of bloke.
I played on it.
Yeah. And you'd have all that and pair of Blundstones or something. And,
although on Friday nights, I mean, I did go shopping in Double Bay and I'd buy Italian silk shirts and gabardine trousers and I'd wear those out,
of course.
open to the navel with a gold chain.
Of course.
When you're on the dance floor, you've got to look good.
Look at me, I'm flying, yeah. But when you're in the ute, you go the other way.
Yeah. I was a working man. I was in a singlet or a rough shirt and a pair of jeans.
Yeah,
and I did that twice. Picked those up there, and I would take the stuff down to Melbourne.
Yeah,
to the contact down there.
You drive down the highway.
Yeah,
always
drive, and then we decided we'd fly it occasionally. We there weren't any sniffer dogs, and I on one occasion I took a suitcase full of sticks. It was so jam-packed with Thai sticks that you couldn't get a bloody T-shirt on top of it and close the case.
Oh, no.
So it was just wrapped in plastic, wiped down with metho so the smell wouldn't get out.
Yeah.
And then the case was locked. I wore a three-piece suit when I took stuff by air, and I carried a copy of the Financial Times. And I had a briefcase.
Right.
I was a businessman.
Yeah.
And anyway,
you're a bit of an actor, aren't you?
Yeah. And I got off the plane and I went to a phone to ring my contact, and I stayed on the phone too long. And when I came back, there were 2 bags left on the carousel. Yeah. One of them was mine. And standing around the carousel were, I think, 20, possibly more, but 20 Commonwealth Police in uniform.
Yeah.
And I had a decision to make: walk away and suffer the consequences.
Or pick up the other bag.
No, I know. I had to pick up my bag.
Yeah.
So instead of me going over in amongst the 30 or 20 police and picking the bag up, I hobbled over to a lone copper standing on his own.
Yeah.
And I said, "Mate, I've got a crook lead. Do you reckon you could go and grab that big bag for me?"
Oh.
And he said, "Yeah, sure." And he went over and he picked it up and he wheeled it. He couldn't carry it. He wheeled it to me.
That is gold.
And I said, "Thanks very much." And I kept wheeling it. And at Melbourne Airport, there used to be a big glass window, and it was reflective, of course.
Yeah.
And I just kept looking at the glass to see if they came for me, and they didn't.
Yeah.
If they'd come for me, I was going to abandon it and bolt.
Yeah.
But they didn't come for me, and I wheeled it off, and I got the deal done.
Gee whiz. And that
was in today's terms.
Buddha sticks, that'd be a lot of money.
In today's terms, I think it was 300,000 then. So what's that? 45, almost 50 years ago.
Yeah.
It's 50 years ago, actually.
Yeah.
That would be, I would have to be in the millions.
So this is very early 70s.
Yeah, 73, 74.
Yeah, well, that's a lot of money. I was a cadet journalist earning very small money, but I earned about $3,000 in a year in 1975. And astonishing.
Yeah, I know. I shake my head still to this day when I think about
and
the
where
figures.
did you deliver that in Melbourne?
Well, I can't say,
no.
but to a bloke.
Well, it's a long time
ago.
Who
will, I know.
He'll be dead.
Yeah, no, he won't be, and he's got a memory, this bloke. He's a nasty fella.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, but roughly which suburb?
Toorak.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh. And did he live there?
He lived around the corner from there. I can't remember the suburb, but he had a business in Toorak that he ran the dope business from.
Did he?
He took me on one occasion. I would let him have smaller amount, like 2,000 sticks on consignment, and I'd stay at his house and he'd bring the money back. But he wanted to do, 5,000 stick or something like that. And I said, no, I can't let that go. You'll have to take me with you.
Yeah.
So he drove me in this convoluted track all over the place to get to this place. And we walk in. It's it's a big establishment, big room. And there's a bloke sitting in there with a pile of cash on a table. We deliver the 5,000 sticks to him.
Yeah.
He hands the money over. We go out and we hop in his car and he drives off and he goes back to his house. And he said, well, that went pretty well. And I said, yeah, look, next time, why don't you go directly to the place? And I'd picked up, it was a reception centre.
Yeah.
And I can't remember, let's call it White Dove.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called. And I pulled a leaflet off the desk, White Dove Reception Centre. I said, or I could deal directly with the bloke who works at White Dove. What do you reckon? And he was embarrassed.
Yes.
He was embarrassed. Yeah.
That contact in Toorak would appear to the world to be a legit businessman.
Oh, absolutely.
What background was he?
He sold goods.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say.
Good, yeah.
I don't want to identify too much.
No. And what about the White Dove place? That was
who knows? That was the only time I visited there. There was obviously the bloke ran the show and he was making some money on the side. A lot of people in lots of different businesses, fronts, genuine fronts, were making a lot of money out of smoko.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know what happened. I don't know whether those people got involved in powder, in smack or ice or meth or anything.
So your guesstimate is that there's a lot of substantial fortunes being propped up or made.
Much bigger than just those guys running their businesses out of Toorak.
Yeah.
There are national businessmen.
Yeah.
And I'm not even going to go close to trying to identify any of them.
No.
And I don't know for sure that I'm right.
No.
But the people
One or two got knighted, I think.
Possibly. The people I mixed with did business with these people. And there is no doubt in my mind that there are people who have got huge fortunes based on illegal activity, just like Joe Kennedy in America made his fortune on booze.
Very interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
And people who probably had they weren't sort of hippies. They weren't. They weren't keen on drugs. They were businessmen, pure and simple.
Yeah.
And some of them might have come out of war-torn Europe as young.
And some of them, I think, you may be well correct there.
So there's pretty hard cases.
Yeah. I think that it was. In many cases, I think it was the idea of being involved with the hard men, as they saw it, the hard men of the game, rubbing shoulders with out-and-out killers and criminals. And I think they enjoyed the game of keeping the authorities at bay, even taunting the authorities at times, denying their involvement in these matters, but making it quite clear that they were.
Right.
And more or less saying, catch me if you can.
Is that right?
I reckon, yeah. And none of them have ever been brought to book.
Is that right?
Well, none of them have been named.
No.
Not
you've
in
never
a court.
Seen, you can recall several of these people, but you've never seen them come undone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So they were the... Yeah.
Money buys silence.
Yeah. We hear about the ones that come unstuck. What you don't hear about is the invisible.
No, you don't.
Because it stays invisible.
You don't. You don't. And I think if you're in that game, you have no scruples and you'll sacrifice anybody as long as you get out of it okay.
Yeah.
And I think there have been people who've had to pay a price and it's been explained to them quietly that they either cop it on the chin or things will be nasty.
Yeah, okay.
And everybody's got a family, Andrew.
Yeah, so they...
And we want to protect it, don't you?
That's right.
Yeah.
There'd be people taking the rap.
Yeah.
Say it was
and this is all hearsay.
Yeah.
I wasn't involved in any of that, so that's not part of my book. And
but it's
relevant.
It's part of this
Too right it is.
podcast.
Too right it is.
Rod, we've heard about your adventures in Sydney, and next week I think we might hear about your adventures in Adelaide when you were hiding out there, keeping your head low, but not that low.
Yeah, that was an interesting time in Adelaide, and here I am. They didn't get me.
Thanks for listening. Life and Crimes is a Sunday Herald Sun production for True Crime Australia. Our producer is Jonty Burton. For my columns, features and more, go to heraldsun.com.au/Andrew Rule, one word. For advertising inquiries, go to newspodcasts@news.com.au. That is all one word, newspodcasts sold. And if you want further information about this episode, links are in the description.